You'd think water would be the one thing in life that doesn't need explaining. It's clear. It's wet. You drink it and move on. And yet somehow, water has evolved into a full personality quiz. You walk into a store, see distilled on one bottle, purified on another. And suddenly, you're standing there like you've been asked to choose between two identical twins who insist they are very different people. One of them looks cleaner. One of them sounds cleaner. Neither one is explaining themselves. Is one secretly better? Is one just water in a fancy outfit? And why does this feel like a test I didn't study for? I'm Professor Everything, and today we'll be answering the question, what is the difference between distilled and purified water? Right here on Explaining Everything. At their core, distilled water and purified water have the same goal: to be cleaner than regular tap water. They both remove unwanted substances, such as contaminants, bacteria, and dissolved particles. Where things get interesting and confusing is how they get there. Distilled water is defined by one specific process. The water is boiled until it turns into steam, and then that steam is cooled back into liquid. Most contaminants don't evaporate, so they get left behind. What you're left with is water that has gone through an intense reset button. Purified water, on the other hand, is defined by a standard, not a single method. As long as the water meets strict purity requirements, it qualifies as purified. That means it can be cleaned using several different techniques, as long as the final product is very low in contaminants. Here's the key idea to remember. Distilled water describes how the water was cleaned, while purified water describes how clean the water ended up being. Same destination, different travel plans. Let's zoom in a little. Distilled water's boiling and condensing process is extremely effective at removing dissolved minerals like calcium and magnesium, as well as many impurities and microorganisms. Because nearly everything gets left behind, distilled water is often considered one of the purest forms of water you can get. It's basically water in its most introverted state. That extreme purity also explains why people often say distilled water tastes flat. Minerals are what usually give water its subtle taste, and distilled water has politely declined all of them. It's not bad, it just doesn't have opinions. Purified water, on the other hand, can be produced using methods like reverse osmosis, carbon filtration, deionization, or ultraviolet treatment. Some of these methods remove almost everything, while others leave behind small amounts of minerals. That's why purified water often tastes more familiar, even though it's still very clean. Here's an important fact-check moment. Both distilled and purified water are safe to drink. Neither one is toxic, harmful, or secretly draining your body of nutrients. The idea that distilled water steals minerals from your body is largely exaggerated. Your body gets the vast majority of its minerals from food, not from water having a personality. Another fun twist: all distilled water is technically purified, but not all purified water is distilled. Yes, water has a family tree now. Here's where things get quietly entertaining. Distilled water is so consistent that it's basically predictable to a fault. Every bottle tastes the same, every time, because there's almost nothing in it besides H2O. It's the plain white t-shirt of water. No logos, no patterns, no drama. Purified water, however, can vary slightly depending on how it was filtered. 2 bottles of purified water might meet the same purity standards, but still taste a little different. That's because purified doesn't mean identical. It just means clean enough to pass very strict rules. Another fun fact is that the word purified often sounds more impressive than it really is. It feels fancy. It feels official. But technically, distilled water often goes through a more extreme cleaning process. It just doesn't brag about it. And perhaps the funniest part of all? Most people can't reliably tell the difference in a blind taste test. We argue about these waters like they're rival sports teams. But if you removed the labels, chaos would immediately follow. So, what is the difference between distilled and purified water? Distilled water is defined by a specific process that removes almost everything through boiling and condensation, resulting in extremely pure, mineral-free water. Purified water is defined by meeting strict cleanliness standards regardless of the method used, and it may still contain trace minerals depending on how it was filtered. Both are clean. Both are safe. Neither one is plotting against you. The real difference comes down to process versus standard, and a surprising amount of marketing confidence. At the end of the day, you're still drinking water. You're just drinking water that went on a slightly different journey to get there. And now, the next time someone asks, "Wait, what's the difference?" you'll have an answer and possibly the uncontrollable urge to explain it. Before you take your next sip of water, distilled, purified, or emotionally confused, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more everyday mysteries made crystal clear. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.